What's up, everyone? It's Syntax Squid, and today we're going to talk about if statements, else statements, and elif statements in Python. These three statements are known as conditional statements. And what these statements do, it takes in a condition and it will return a value. So every if statement has a condition or an expression. So let's do if 7 is greater than 5 and put a colon. What this is doing is it's going to evaluate anything in this indented space or code block if 7 is greater than 5. And this code block makes it where anything inside this, as long as this expression is true, as long as this conditional is true, it's going to print it out. So let's do print 7 is greater than 5. So if we run this, it's going to say 7 is greater than 5 because the conditional is true. Next, let's talk about elif statements. And unlike its if statement counterpart, it can be placed multiple times. I can have 100 elif statements, but we're just going to use one this time. I'm going to do elif 5 is greater than 7. We're going to do print 5 is greater than 7. Now, since this is obviously not true, this block will never execute. So if we were to run this, since the conditional is not true, but this conditional is true, then it's just going to run this one, and this one will be left untouched. And next, we're going to talk about the else statement, which can be almost like an error handler. And there's no condition after the else statement. You just put a colon, and you can print out a message. So let's just do print no number. Now, obviously, this will never happen because there are numbers. So if we run this, it'll print out 7 is greater than 5. Next, let's talk about how to use if statements when using inputs. So let's do age equals input. We're going to rebuild the is old enough to drive program because last time we were just using variables. We're going to do age equals input. How old are you? We're going to do if age is greater than or equal to 16, then we're going to print you are old enough to drive. What this is doing, it's comparing the variable. And what's going to happen is it's going to compare the variable to this integer. And if it's true, then it's going to say we're old enough to drive. Now, one thing we have to do, since inputs by default are strings, there are two things we could do. We can either specify that the age is an integer or the input is an integer. You can do whatever you want, but I prefer to do it in the input. Let's do integer input. Make sure you just wrap that input statement with the integer. And then we're going to make an elif. That says elif age is less than 16. Then we're going to print you are not old enough to drive. Then we're going to put an else statement where it's just going to print if there's no age entered. It's going to say age undefined. Now, spell that right, undefined. And let's run this. It's going to ask how old I am. Let's put 16. Let's say you're old enough to drive. Let's X this. Let's run this again. Let's say we do 12. You are not old enough to drive. What this is doing is Python is taking in the integer input we just took, and it's going to pass it through the statements. So first, it's going to pass it through the if statement. Okay, if it's 16, if 16 is greater than or equal to 16, it's going to print you're old enough to drive. That's a true statement. Now, if it's going to go to the elif statement, it's going to do, okay, see, 12 is less than 16. So we're going to return this value. Now, if I were So let's say enter nothing. It's going to give us an integer because it's an invalid literal. So that's why this else statement would, again, never run unless we had a loop. Next, let's do a fun little game. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of it, and then I'm going to see if you guys can finish on your own. We're going to do a simple choose your own adventure game to practice nesting. Now, I do not expect you to get this right first try. I just want you guys to try. Take a guess. Okay, now that you've done it, I'm going to show you how I would do this. So let's do choice equals input. Let's just do a simple crossroad one. We'll do input. We'll do there is a fork in the road. Would you like to go left or right? Enter. L for left and R for right. So this is just an input. Just going to give us an input, display some text so we know what to do. Then we're going to do if choice equals L. We're going to print you went left and you see a number that says call. Would you like to call the number or not? Then what we're going to do is something called if statement nesting. We're just going to nest these conditionals. And what happens is if this conditional is true, we're going to do this, we're going to return this, and then we're going to return an if statement. Now first let's do an input. So we're going to do input. We're going to make it a choice again. Choice equals input. Enter. Y for yes and N for no. Then we're going to do if choice equals Y. We're going to print in this indentation. Sorry about that. We're going to print out you called the number. Let's also make sure this is a double equal and this is indented. So what's going to happen now is if the choice is equal to left and we enter yes, it's going to say you called the number. So now what this is doing is it's taking a conditional in a conditional. And what is happening is since this is the only conditional, and if we hit L, then it would take us directly to another one. Kind of like if you turn on a fork in a road and you see another one, you have to make another choice. So let's go ahead, finish up the rest. Now I'm not going to bore you and type this all out, but I'm going to cut the video and then I'll explain what all this is doing. See you in a minute. Alright, welcome back. And as you can see, I've finished up the program and I just added some more choices and validation. And what this is doing is the same thing, except there are two choices now. So if you hit N, it'll tell you you didn't call the number and press forward. If it's invalid, it will be an invalid option. I hope you enjoyed today's video and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out, Squid Squad.